Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Women of Cisco panel. Very excited for this one, so I will pass straight over to Chadney, who will give you the intros.
Thank you, Alex. We are so excited to be here with you all today. Thank you so much for joining. As you can probably see, we have got a large panel today, and I'm so excited to get speaking with every single one of our panelists today and to hear about their vast range of experiences and perspectives on having women in the technology industry. So there's a couple of things we're going to be focusing on slightly more than others, and that is entering the tech industry, regardless of the background that you have, and then also understanding sort of what skill set will help you stay within the industry and remain competitive within the industry too. So I will very quickly introduce myself. My name is Channi Panchow, as Alex said, and I am a systems engineer in Cisco, working for the developer advocacy team. I came in about 2.5 years ago through the sales graduate program, and I've loved it ever since. And I'm very excited to be speaking to you and to our panelists today. I am also very lucky to be joined by a co-host, Rhiannon. Rhiannon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rhiannon Edwards. I'm a first year degree apprentice at Cisco, so I've been here since July. So on the apprenticeship, I can rotate into different sectors. So far I've worked 3 months in CX enablement, which is creating training events internally for Cisco and for partners. And I'm currently working in marketing right now. And in a few weeks' time, I will join global virtual sales.
Thank you, Rhiannon. So we're very excited to have Rhiannon on as well. You'll be hearing not just from me, but also from Rhiannon. Rhiannon will be keeping an eye out on questions from the audience. So please, I know we're doing this virtually instead of all being in a room together, but please get your questions in if you do have any. Rhiannon will be on hand to help ask those out live to our panelists. So let's move on to our lovely panelists. We are very lucky to be joined by many of them today, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say. Hope, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So first, thank you for having me. So my name's Hope Cunningham, and I've been at Cisco for just under 6 years, and I currently work as a global account manager for NatWest Group based in Edinburgh. I started my Cisco career based down in London, and I did the graduate program down there. And in the past 5.5 years, I completed the graduate scheme. I've worked across the commercial, enterprise, and service provider sectors, before moving back to Edinburgh to lead the small business territory. And now I've just started a role in one of our global accounts. So I'm really excited to be part of the panel today and hear all about the wonderful experiences from all the women here too.
Thank you, Hope. And we'll be touching more on all the range of experiences you've had within your short time at Cisco as well. So moving on to our next panelist, Jasmine, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Channi. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine Russell. I'm a systems engineer at Cisco. I work with a team of SEs, systems engineers who look after large enterprise customers. I joined Cisco and started my Cisco journey through the apprenticeship program, which I will be talking a bit more about today with everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jasmine. And next, we've got Rachel. Rachel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Rachel. I joined Cisco about 3 years ago. I work in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa service provider marketing team. So I work with organizations like BT, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom across the region to help drive their marketing strategies with Cisco as a partner. Previously to Cisco, I've worked in other security vendors, such as a company called Panelists, and also I've worked for partners and resellers, all in the marketing space. As well as my day job doing that, I also co-lead Women of Cisco UK and Ireland. So that's a fantastic role where we're trying to grow our community of women at Cisco, as well as attracting new talent from external sources.
Thank you, Rachel. And actually, Rachel was one of the first people I spoke to when we talked about having this sort of panel discussion for the Athena Hackathon. And it would be incredible if you could know all of the amazing work that Rachel does do here at Cisco to encourage more of us to join this Women of Cisco community and all the events that you lead throughout the year. But moving on to the next person, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Ifoma Nemad. I'm an IT manager within our Digital Enterprise Solutions group. So that's like your IT group. I look after non-Cisco collaboration applications for our global employees. I joined Cisco way back in, well, 14 years ago, so it was a long time ago. And I was initially an intern. I've had a range of different experiences, sort of lots of different careers in one at Cisco. So done a lot of communications and marketing, business operations, finance management, service management, and then into IT management. And I also run a data and analytics team as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ifoma. And we'll be talking a little bit more to you as well about all the range of experiences you've had and sort of that ability to transition if that's what you'd like to do. So thank you so much for that. Cheryl, would you like to go next?
Hi, yes. Thanks for having me as well. So I am a bit different because I'm brand new to Cisco. I joined Cisco just over 2 months ago. I've recently returned from living in the Middle East in Dubai in the UAE, working for the Emirates Airline Group for the last 20 years. So I feel like a foreigner back home in the UK after all this time. I've worked in a variety of different technology roles, I guess for, dare I say it, more than 30 years, but always in an internal IT function. And now I've had the great pleasure of coming into a technology company. And I'm adjusting, but I'm loving it. It is an awesome company to work for. I'm in a global role, also in digital enterprise solutions, so where our CIO sits for the group. I'm in a global role, but based currently in London. And yeah, I'm getting used to working California working hours from the UK. But it's brilliant. I'm really, really enjoying it. I can see why we win the awards we do as an employer of choice. So yeah, looking forward to the session.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. And I have to completely agree with that. So when I first joined Cisco, coming back from, well, going from the internship to this grad program was mostly based on the culture of the company, how incredible the people who are working here are towards each other. So I completely back that comment up, and I really hope you experience more and more of that as you continue being adjusted into Cisco. And last but definitely not least, Ashka, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. I'm Ashika and I've been here for almost 5 years at Cisco. I'm in IT and I'm a product owner for a tool called OnTrack. So under the asset management team, and I came in through the grad program. I've done some business operations roles. I've done some innovation and strategy. And now I'm a product owner, which is basically, the role is basically making sure the team and the product is at its optimal value through the team. So I'm really enjoying it and I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashika. So as we said, like we've got a huge range of panelists here, we're all with sort of different entry routes into the organization, different backgrounds and different perspectives on some of the things we're going to be talking about today. Please do continue sending in your questions. Rhiannon will be monitoring them on the YouTube chat. But really, we're focusing on this topic more than anything because we want to really appeal to this audience. We understand many of you might be in university at the moment, considering different career options, and technology sector might be one of them. But many of you might also already have experience within the industry and be considering a potential change in the future. So we want to make sure we open our discussion up for each and every one of you who are listening today. So one of the things that I can think about with our audience at the moment is people might be thinking of joining the technology industry completely from scratch. So sort of doing their school, their college, their university maybe, and then looking at the technology industry. Now, I know, Ashika, you took a sort of more traditional route like many of our listeners might be doing today. Can you tell us more about your journey into Cisco and how you sort of transitioned from the education environment to the workplace?
Yeah, of course. So I joined, like you said, Chandni, from university. I did 3 years undergrad and I did my master's here at UCL and joined Cisco as my first full-time job. I applied to 2 positions at Cisco. One was SIP, which was the Cisco International Internship Program, and also the full-time position. The SIP program was basically you get to spend a year out in San Jose, and they'll let you spend time out there and rotate between teams to, have an experience in the real world and out there. I chose to stay here and take the full-time opportunity, and really enjoyed it. It was my first proper job. I had an internship at a bank while I was at university, but it wasn't, the full experience of it. So I came into a team which, and the role was business operations. My degree was half technical and half business, but I knew that I didn't want to do anything technical. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't want it to be technical. So I came in with that. So that transition period was easy. I felt like it was made easy at Cisco. But the three things I would kind of say were key to that was number one, making sure you speak to the people who join at the same time as you, the other grads, the other new hires, because they are likely to have other roles. They're going to be in different teams. So the more you speak to them, the more you'll realize what other teams are out there, what other positions are out there, because I wasn't sure of what other positions are out there, especially in a tech role coming out of university. So definitely speak to people who are in the same cohort or in a similar position to you, and also everyone else. The second thing was to take training. University was great, and it did teach me up to a certain level, but there is lots of training opportunities available which will allow you to learn a bit more about what you'll be doing day to day, and also for you to get certifications around that, to give you a good foundation on all of that work that you'll be doing day to day. And the third thing I would say is to not worry about not knowing what you want to do. That's what I had. Like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but as long as you keep going and be open to new experiences, I'm sure you'll find your way around. I've been here for 5 years. It doesn't feel like that, but the more you speak to people, the more you'll realize what you hate, what you like, and they give you the time and opportunities to find that place. So my transition was made pretty easy here at Cisco, but I would recommend just being open to things, and things will find you.
I love that. No, that completely makes sense. And especially the point you made about potentially not knowing and that being okay. I think there is this perception that a lot of people know exactly what they want to do from a young age, and then they just follow step by step the path that leads them to that point. Would you say that you had an idea from the get-go that you wanted to be in the technology industry, or was that something that you learned throughout the process?
So I think what I did was I went with what I was good at. So I knew that tech, I had an interest in it, and I was relatively good at it academically, and I went through the academic path. So took it that way. And also while at university, you hear different companies, and our university had a great relationship with Cisco. And that was the way I learned more about Cisco. And I knew that it was something I'd heard other people in our year who'd worked for them and had great things to say about them. And so that's how I kind of followed that path.
Amazing, thank you so much. And with a company as large as Cisco, in my own personal experience, even when you think you understand a good deal of roles available, you then one day meet someone new and realize there's a whole new area you've never even heard of before. And there's just so many opportunities that come with a company this large. And I think your point about making sure you communicate with other people and making sure you get to know others is a great way of understanding what is out there that you might not already know of. So that's a great point. Thank you for raising that. Not just communicating with people in sort of your own environment, in your own graduate program, but maybe people who are on other grad programs within the industry and the same company. So thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly. No problem.
I'd actually like to hear a bit more from Jasmine as well, actually, on this topic, because I know you took a slightly different route than the traditional one in terms of entering the tech industry, and taking an apprenticeship is becoming more and more of a prominent option today than it has ever been. So could you tell us maybe a bit more about your transition from education into the organization and what your experience of the apprenticeship was like?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Cisco and I started my apprenticeship program straight after college. I did an IT course in college for 2 years, and I joined Cisco straight after. I know that many people have concerns or fear around going straight into the industry and work, and missing out potentially on doing a degree, but the Cisco apprenticeship program offers a degree. So I was doing my degree whilst also working at Cisco, which I thought was the best of both worlds. So yeah, joined straight after college. The program is 3 years long, and it gives us the opportunity to rotate through different roles. So I didn't have to know day one exactly what I had to do. I didn't have to choose a role straight away. I got given the opportunity to work with different teams and different roles, which we call rotations, and I've done 6 of them, which then led me to the role I'm in now. I graduated from the program last July, and I've been working in the as an SE as an SE for the past year. And because I worked in different teams, actually my transition then out of the apprenticeship program was also easy because I got to meet so many people whilst I was doing all those different roles. And the apprenticeship program is structured in a way that gives everyone support. So when you join, you get mentors, you get people who help you, who support you. So you join straight after college. For some people, a lot of people are like, I don't really know what is going to happen, but there is actually structure. There's a way to help you transition, really, to make that transition from college into the work world easier. All whilst doing the degree at the same time, which is in digital and technology solutions. Which is directly aligned to the work you're doing. So you can either choose a technical role or a non-technical path. I personally went for the technical one, so my rotations were related, or the modules I was doing as part of the degree were directly related to the work I was doing, and then I managed to use the experience I was having at work to write those assignments, which was great. And I personally learned by doing. So all that learning, you do it vice versa. So you have the theory, you go and apply it at work, and then once you've applied, you can actually write about what you've been doing, which I think is an amazing combination. And again, got to meet a lot of great people. Currently, my job is a lot, I'd say, easier because it's all about knowing the right people and who to go to. And because I've built all those connections over the past 3 years, it's just been an easy transition for me.
Amazing, thank you for that, Jasmine. And it completely makes sense that instead of maybe spending 3 or 4 years in the university environment trying to obtain that degree, you've actually spent those years in the industry and in the company, building your contacts, building your networking, and also your experience within that company before obtaining that degree by the end of it. So it seems like a huge journey. And I think there are a couple of conceptions about the apprenticeship program, not just here, but in apprenticeships in general, that needs to be combated. And I think that misconception is maybe that it's a slightly easier route into starting your career. And I really dislike hearing that because I know how hard apprentices at Cisco work managing the degree alongside their rotation work, alongside all sorts of other assignments and deadlines that you have to meet. What are your thoughts on sort of combating that misconception?
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a misconception there, and it is not an easy way. It's not an easy option at all because we do the degree, we do certifications as well. We have responsibilities at work, especially in your 3rd year as you become more and more, directly working with the teams and working with customers, and you have lots of deadlines. So it all comes down to time management, and you get support actually into how you get to manage that. And the more the apprenticeship is growing, the more we are having a more consolidated way of how we should help people and how more of a structure, really. I keep coming back to this word. So it's not easier. I don't think it is. I can't speak for people who have gone for the other route, but I definitely think it was there have been lots of challenges, but it all comes down to being self-driven, motivated, time management, and yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's the easy option helped.
Yes, definitely. You've mentioned a whole range of skills there that you end up developing by almost being thrown into the deep end. And also those are skills that will serve you well throughout your entire career, whether it does remain at Cisco or anywhere else. Those are the kinds of skills you can transfer and leverage almost anywhere. So thank you so much for raising that. And I think as well, there are so many different tools you can actually leverage once you're in the workplace, as well as when you're preparing for it. So for example, mentorship is a huge sort of tool that you're given access to when you start working. And that's something that might be new to a few people. So I know for me, when I was in university, I hadn't really had much mentorship. I didn't really know how that worked in the workplace and how to leverage that. But Rachel, I know we spoke slightly earlier, and you talked about how mentorship played a huge role for you in your career. Can you tell us more about how you leveraged that and how it really shaped things for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of mentorship. So for me, I managed to find a mentor when I was about 6 months into Cisco. I got help from my direct manager to find me someone who was both, connected to what I'm doing in my day job, but far enough away that it was enabling me to get new experiences and also work with new teams and get exposure to new teams as well as more senior people within the organisation. And so having that mentor for me really helped to firstly like channel and help me to be able to articulate and understand what I want to get out of my career at Cisco. Not only because my mentor helped me, but almost like the pressure of having to have those conversations with the mentor really helps you to guide yourself and your own thinking. I also had great support from my mentor to help me to get access to, we call them stretch assignments. So it may be working on a project that you haven't had exposure to in your day job and you won't get exposure to, but there's a need for someone in another part of the organisation who may need support on a very short term or maybe a long term project. And for me, it was a very short 2-month stint that I could do, maybe an hour a week on. And it enabled me to get access to another team that I then developed great relationships with. And it actually led to a much bigger side project, which has been able to give me a lot of visibility within Cisco around with senior people. And it's also helped me to kind of move my career along quite a bit. So a fantastic experience for me. And if you are looking to have a mentor, I've got some tips for you. So firstly, I'd say make sure that you build a relationship with the person that you want to be your mentor before you ask them to become your mentor. I don't think that it works as well if you see someone that you've maybe present one time and you ask them to be your mentor. Like, they don't know you, they don't know why you want them to mentor you, you don't really know why you want them to mentor you. So make sure that you have an existing relationship with this person before you start that mentorship process. Also, filtering on from that, it must be a natural fit. So by building up that relationship, you'll be able to see whether there's good chemistry, whether you're a good fit for each other in terms of that mentor-mentee relationship. And also, thirdly, make sure that you set boundaries and timescales around your mentorship. So if it's going to be an ongoing mentorship over the next however many years, make sure that you've both agreed to doing that. If it's going to be 6 months or 12 months, I think it's important to set that up and agree together how often you'll meet, what exactly you want to get out of the mentorship, and whether it's you want to look for a new job, you need support with developing your career and progressing to the next step, getting a promotion, or whether you want to get exposure to other parts of the organisation that you're working in. So yeah, a few tips there that I have definitely learned along the way and that I would share with anyone looking to get a mentor in the workplace.
Thank you, Rachel. Those are some fantastic tips, and I have no doubt that they're incredibly valuable for those who maybe not have experience with mentorship before, like I didn't when I was initially in university. I think something that I've heard a lot about whilst I've been at work, but maybe not fully understood, is this concept of choosing the right mentor for you. So I know you touched a little bit upon making sure you have that natural fit with whoever it is you'd like to be your mentor. But do you think there's sort of a right or wrong way to go about it in terms of choosing a mentor who's maybe quite different to you, so they share different perspectives, or maybe choosing a mentor who is where you want to see, where you see yourself achieving and getting to? Do you think there's sort of an answer to a right or wrong mentor?
I do think it depends on what you're looking to achieve from your mentorship. If you feel like you're a bit stuck in your career, or you don't know where your career is going, it might be good to get someone who works in a completely different part of the business to help give you that different perspective on how you can progress your career. For me, I wanted to stay in my particular field, which is marketing, and get better visibility and access to other types of different teams, as well as that senior leadership guidance. So I work in marketing. Actually, my mentor is the VP of marketing for Cisco within Europe, Middle East and Africa. And for me, I saw her as a very inspiring leader. I knew a bit about her career path and how she got to the place that she wanted to go. So for me, she was more of an inspirational mentor that I could work with, and that was of a similar mindset to me, and really helped me with what I wanted to achieve out of it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Rachel. And I think some of the points you raised were so incredibly valuable. So, for example, getting to speak with these mentors before you sort of have that idea of whether it's going to fit for you, and also finding out more about them, allowing them to find out more about you. And I think that ties in quite nicely to this concept of network. Now, like mentorship, I think networking can be something that's really quite new to people, and it plays a huge impact. I know, Jasmine, you mentioned it earlier as well. You've had the advantage of getting to know people before you've had to make your career decisions, and that really helped. If I'm going to come to you with this question, this is a skill that normally students don't have to use so much in school. So what is your advice for sort of building up your networking skills and also understanding the importance that networking could have in your career?
Of course. So I think actually in everything that's been said by Ashika and Jasmine and Rachel, everything has had undercurrents of networking. So I think that just highlights just how important it is and how impactful it could be on your career. I think in terms of building it up while you're, at university, if you think about, I guess, sort of what you do on social media, you build a network of people, of friends, but you have to go a little bit deeper. The idea is really it should be a mutual exchange. If somebody finds out about you, you find out about somebody else, and you sort of help maintain that relationship, so try and grow it. But the idea is that you should be looking at areas maybe that you're interested in, areas that maybe areas you don't even know that much about, but you want to find out more about. So being able to source out people in those areas and starting a conversation, be interested in people, and sort of find out, what they do, how they do it, what the area's like. And describe a little bit about what you do as well. So I think that would be a good way to really start. But really, it can open up, those newer opportunities. I think the importance is, it's huge. There's a lot of things that can happen. You've got the idea that it makes you more noticeable. Your work ethic, the things that you're good at, the things that you're interested in. Someone that you network with, years ago might, your name might come to their mind when an opportunity becomes available. So, it opens up a lot, and I think it also gives you. It just broadens your mindset and gives you that creative mindset, things that you might not have known before, you now are exposed to, and you have a bit more information on. And it just allows you to build long-lasting relationships as well. I definitely have, I have friends, and not just business relationships, but really things that I've been able to build on, through networking.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Ifoma. I think you've mentioned some really important points there of not only the impact it having on your own sort of development and career, but also building your relationships with people who might be potential clients or there to help you in the future one day. And I think one thing you said that really resonates with me here is it echoes what my manager said to me several times is you can be really, really great at what you do, but if people don't know how amazing you are at what it is you do, it's limiting how many doors can open up for you. So there's definitely this sort of working together of you being able to have that skill and that strength, and then letting people know that this is what you can do, so they can leverage that strength that you have. So thank you so much for that. Actually, I want to come to Hope with something you actually just mentioned just now, because I know, Hope, we've talked about social media before and this use of social media for your brand and your networking skills. Now, social media is something that's probably slightly more comfortable and within the same environment as many of our listeners today for maybe their own personal uses, but how can they now bring those skills and that level of comfort into the workplace?
Yeah, so I think personal brand and building a network throughout any company, but especially Cisco, is key. And in my experience, there's a couple of ways to do this. And obviously, some of the speakers spoke about just generally networking, speaking to as many people as you can, showing an interest, asking them what they do, tell them about yourself. And again, it's also sometimes it can be a bit scary, or it doesn't feel comfortable to tell people how amazing you are. You feel like you're almost bragging, and it's not that. But I think especially as Brits or British people, we can be quite modest, and we really need to try to get out of our comfort zone a little bit and share some of the good things that we're doing, and just not expect our managers or directors to do it for us. You can also try and speak to other people and get them to share your story too. And social media is a really good way of doing that. And I think platforms such as LinkedIn are really great ways to build your brand. You know, you can share your interests, and you can also share updates around Cisco and the company that you work for. So it's kind of like you get the best of both worlds. And I think, you know, for me, one piece of advice I would say, and this was advice that I got, it was a couple of months ago actually, or even probably about a year ago, was differentiate your LinkedIn profile. You know, everybody's got a corporate photo, but the bio is really important. And having that different bio, that people will look at it and think, oh, I wonder who Hope Cunningham is. I wonder what she does. And having just a little bit about yourself, and you're not just saying what your role is, you know, global account manager at Cisco, that probably doesn't mean a huge amount to many people. So what I've done is explained a little bit more. So, you know, I've said that I'm from Scotland. You know, I grew up on a farm. I, you know, moved and did 5.5 years at Cisco, working in various sectors. Now I do this, and this is what it means to my customers, and maybe speaking a little bit about what I do extracurricular wise. So, you know, I talk about the fact that I'm really, I really embrace inclusion and diversity and work really closely with the team at Cisco to do that and put events on, etc. And interestingly enough, I didn't really think anything of it until I got an offer for my current role. And I didn't actually meet my director before receiving my offer. And it was after I accepted it, when I did meet him, he said, yeah, you know, a couple of people spoke really, really highly of you. You know, I've heard that you've done work in the past. I also looked at your LinkedIn. It was really different. And he said, you know, and it really showed that you know, your personality and what you stood for. And I thought, oh my gosh, it works. So, you know, I think that is really, really, it's a good way of differentiating yourself and building your brand, and then just connecting with as many people as you can and meet as you meet them, and because they're always going to probably come back and you'll cross paths in the future. Technology is a small world.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Hope. And what a great success story that is, about how you've leveraged your social media to land a role that you were really interested in having. I have one follow-up question on that as well, actually. What are your thoughts on sort of having that barrier between personal social networking and then using your social media for work purposes? How can you maintain a professional sort of profile if you're using it for both purposes?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid question. And for me, I tend to keep my LinkedIn for professional use. And I use Instagram and Facebook for personal, and I keep them separate. That's not to say that everybody should. You know, I know a lot of people that maybe share Cisco updates on their Facebook, but I do tend to keep them separate. And they do merge occasionally. You know, if there's charity work being done, you know, within Cisco, and I want to share that with my Facebook followers, I absolutely do that. But I do tend to keep them quite separate. And I think, you know, it's important because of, it's so easy to look someone up on social media, right? And I think you've just got to be careful as to what kind of perception you want to portray to the market.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. And I can completely echo what it is you're saying there, that it is important to have somewhat of a barrier, but it's understandable that they will merge, and sometimes that line will be slightly blurry. As long as you feel like you have maybe control over that blur at the time, there's no harm in letting that happen. So I'm very excited now to head over to our next section of our sort of panel discussion today, and that is our myth busting round. And I'm very excited about this because we've got a couple of myths that we really want to power through, and I'd love to get all of your inputs on sort of how we can not only diminish that myth, but also what the reality of our tech industry is like. It's not really these myths that I'm going to throw up. So the first one is about how you must have a sort of academic or STEM background in order to not only join the tech industry, but thrive within it. And actually, Rachel, I'm going to come to you with this myth because I know this is something you really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to start by saying I'm probably, I mean, I don't really know these women on the call, but I'm probably going to be the least techie person. Not even in the call, but probably across a wide range of people at Cisco. In terms of my background, so I did a degree in psychology. So, you know, it's a social science. There is quite a lot of biology involved, but it's definitely not a technical degree by any means. And as I was doing that degree, I was exploring my career options. And a lot of my friends and peers, when I was on the course, they wanted to maybe go into clinical psychology, educational psychology, sports psychology. And as I was exploring those options too, I realised that you don't really make a lot of money doing that unless you're really senior. So I was thinking, you know, how can I, what path can I take to, you know, have a more of a financially beneficial career? And all I heard from people was that tech is the place to be if you want to get paid well. So that's basically what led me to working in technology. I did do a placement year at my university. So I did 2 years study, 1 year placement and a 4 years of work, and then my final year at university. And during that placement year, I was under pressure to find a year-long placement. Not many other people were going to do business placements. A lot of them were doing more of the traditional psychology routes. And I must have applied for tens of different internships, and it got down to the wire, and I hadn't been able to get anything. And I was able to find an internship at a security software company and hardware company doing internal communications and marketing. And I essentially fell into it, and that's how I got into the tech world. And yeah, I still probably don't know as much as I should do about the tech that Cisco does. But also I think when you do, you know, go into industries like this, and you know, you acknowledge that this probably isn't going to be something that you're going to grasp completely from the start. I think just having the confidence in what skills you do have. So, you know, for me, that is marketing and communications. I don't need to be the best technical person in my team. I know all the ins and outs and all the details of all the different technologies and products. All I need to know is how to market a product with a partner or to a customer, and you know, having the confidence to say, I'm not a technical person, please don't ask me any technical questions. And you know, I've done all right so far, so that gives you any confidence to try it out. Hopefully it will.
And not having done so bad so far is a huge understatement to your achievements. And just picking out some of the words you just mentioned about the confidence that you should have when you walk into this. Actually, you mentioned you're probably the least technical person on this panel, but I think almost every single panelist has actually said that to me as well, about being the least technical. So I think it's more about this idea of confidence, as you said, and no matter what level of technical knowledge you might have, you might always feel like you're not the most technical person in the room. But I guess that's what you're saying, is that's not the important part. The important part is leveraging the skills you do have in order to make your role work well and to be successful in it. So thank you so much for busting that myth for us. We are now going to move on to myth number 2. So myth number 2 is that once you are successful within in obtaining a role within the tech industry, that you're now committed to that area of tech forever. Now, Foma, I'm going to come to you first, because you did mention a whole range of moving around within Cisco. So can you tell us more about how this myth just needs to be busted?
Yeah, completely busted. I think I'm a huge fan of moving around, of getting new skills, you know, of learning lots. And when you get a role, you're definitely not committed to that area, especially I think earlier in career. You know, you want to move around, you want to find out more, you know, see how things work. And if it is the case that you want to, you know, you want to go deep and you want to focus on an area, you're able to do that as well. But, you know, just the ability to move around is definitely something that's possible. It's something you should do. It helps you grow. It helps you build that diversity of thought, you know, increase knowledge. So it's definitely not something that I think everybody, you know, needs to feel that, you know, you're going to be committed to that area forever. I think for me, at Cisco, I probably have had something new to do every maybe 2 or 3 years. Which has been, it's amazing, but when it happens, you know, when I get a new thing, and usually you're thrown in at the deep end, and it's just like, hey, here's this thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? I've got no idea what it is. But one trick that I found that really helped me was sort of every Friday I would look at, okay, what new thing do I know this Friday that I didn't know last Friday? And it's a fantastic way of just being able to measure, you know, how you're growing and how, you know, over time you lose that deer in the headlights type view that you have when you come into something new. And it's just fantastic having the different options, the different knowledge, you know, the different sort of understanding of how things work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ifeoma. Hope, do you have anything else to add to this? Because I know you also mentioned having a bit of transition time in Cisco as well.
Yeah, and I totally know the feeling when you start a new job and you think, why did I do this? You know, why have I put myself through this again? I just changed 2 years ago. But I honestly, I used to believe this myth. I honestly did, and I've realized that this is just not the case. So, you know, within my 6-year career at Cisco, or almost 6-year career, I've been lucky enough to move around. You know, I've worked in commercial, I've worked in global service provider, I've worked in small business, and now I work in enterprise. So I've almost covered all the different verticals that we have within Cisco. And on the way, I have learned loads, but I've also connected and met people through these teams. And these people have moved across sectors as well. So it definitely provides you with opportunity to differentiate, because it's not only just you that's moving around, it's other people too. So if you start connecting with them and you understand that they're now a hiring manager and they're looking to fill a place in their team, you know, you've worked with them previously and you've perhaps, you know, got some good rapport and they know what you're capable of. But I guess I just wanted to share a quick experience around this too. And one of my scariest steps in my career at Cisco was moving back to Scotland. So I started my career down in London, and I wanted to move back to Scotland to be closer to my family. And I had a few people tell me that, you know, be careful with that, because you're limiting your opportunities within Cisco because it's a smaller team. And that did scare me. And it was true to an extent, because there is, you know, the London teams are larger, but actually that's not been the case at all. You know, I actually work out of a London organization now. You know, the enterprise team is based down there, and I work in Scotland and I live up here, and I can travel down when I need to, non-COVID times. And that didn't prevent me from getting a job at all. And I know it won't in future. So I just wanted to make sure that that point was raised too, around location, you know, and London seen as being the kind of central hub, because I know that it's changing within Cisco hugely. You know, there are people based all over the UK, and I think that's great, because it really shows that there's opportunity across the board. And of course, I assume that's replicated in every other country.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. And I think you're absolutely correct there. It's not just the transition within roles within the tech industry or within your company. It's also that geographical concept that sometimes people feel there is a myth around as well. So thank you again for addressing that. I think both Ifeoma and yourself raised some very interesting points. Again, always leading back to this main word that keeps popping up of networking everywhere. It really helps you build your network if you've moved around a little bit, and also give you that all-rounded experience and skill set as well. So I know, Ifeoma, previously you said something that has still stuck with me till today, and that is that your power is in connecting people and strategies. And I love the confidence you had when you phrased that. And I also love how you said that it's in the connections. Despite all of your years of experience, your power lies in being able to connect these people and these strategies together. And no doubt that's been strengthened throughout your journey of transitioning between the different roles. So I love that. I'm actually going to move on to another quote that I absolutely love, that I heard previously as well. And actually, Cheryl, this was from you. And you said that technology and travel were in your blood. And that was incredible for me to hear. And that leads us so nicely onto myth number 3. So if you wouldn't mind addressing this third myth for us, which is, if you're not already in the technology industry, then it's too late to transition into it and then be successful in that tech industry. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I'm getting Trump Rachel's non-techie, and I've been in technology for probably at least 20-25 years. But I started as a corporate travel agent. I did my A-levels. I didn't do a first degree. I did my master's much later in my 30s, in the midst of getting engaged, married, and having a first baby and working full time. I don't know how. I think we have some special skills as women somewhere. But yeah, I loved travel, and that's what I wanted to do. But what happened in my first role was I became the super user, the one everybody used to go to when they didn't know how to use the system, or when it was broken, they needed someone to fix it. And somehow just really, really enjoyed that part of my role, to the point where I then ended up moving to a travel systems company as a trainer. an account manager, visiting travel agents all across the UK, teaching them how to get the best out of the system, and found myself more often than not, this was in the days of floppy disks though, of rebuilding machines over the phone with the engineer back at base, and then over time realizing I could actually do most of that myself. And I think Jasmine said about learning on the job and learning, practicing. That's my style of learning as well, very much a practical learner. So yeah, I ended up then in a systems company, but on the sales and support side, and fell into IT. And really only fell out of IT a couple of times over that time. And so spent a lot of time in travel tech, which was just like amazing, both my passions at the same time. Then in the Middle East, working for an airline in their very large IT function. And yeah, and now the travel part is kind of constrained a bit with COVID, but it gave me the great opportunity to travel home and be in a tech company. And so every day be part of using that technical learning that I've had over the years. I also spent a couple of years, I mentioned to you, in a bank, learning about how banking happened in, how technology and banking come together. But what I would say is that technology is full of different roles. It's not that it's a disadvantage or, you know, it's something you have to build up. Some roles you need a certain amount of knowledge around technology, but I've always been in business facing roles where, or almost always, where it's about how you spend your technology investments, how technology enables a business to be more successful, and how you choose the projects and the work that you do, and you make sure that technology always knits with what the business needs. And so that skill requires a lot of translation skills, strategy skills, and they don't need to be specific to technology. And then you learn as much as you need to, and keep learning. I think that's a theme I've seen across all of these. And I have to say, it's a pleasure to be on this panel because I've learned so much today. I've been desperately writing notes. But yeah, I think as one thing that we have that unites us is some special inbuilt skills. As females, very adaptable, very perceptive, very hungry to learn. And I had a team where my gender ratio, I had a lot of diversity, and that's really important to me, but where the team had a large percentage of females. And when you look around the room, the most committed, the most passionate employees I had, it wasn't by design, it was by natural instinct that they were women, and they were people who were hungry to learn and to take on responsibility, whether they were paid for it or not, because they loved learning. And I think that's the thing about technology. As long as you're passionate about tech and you like learning, then you'll find your way.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Sharon. I'm sure our audience today definitely would, with that idea of putting the passion and alongside the hard work that is needed to work in this industry and to do well in it. It's not an industry that's easy. And maybe, Rachel, this comes back to your point about how it's a well-paid industry to be in, but equally it takes the work and the passion that comes with it in order to earn that salary that comes alongside it. So thank you so much for your point on that. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of our panelists for this myth-busting session. I agree, Cheryl, it's been a huge learning curve for me, and I'm in awe of all the stories and teaching points we've had from you all today. We've got a couple of minutes left, so around 10-15 minutes left before we close this call. I'm now going to pass over to my co-host, Rhiannon, who's going to be pointing some questions towards you all that are from the audience. So Rhiannon, are you there?
I am. So I want to start off by asking a question to you, Cheryl. So you mentioned about having a big team of females in your last workplace and how you've worked over numerous different countries, continents even, and in different industries, but all within tech. Have you found that there's been hurdles to cross being a female in this industry, but then also what skills and what can females and non-binary people bring to this industry to further our careers and the business as a whole?
I don't know if I've just been lucky, but I've never felt held back by my gender or by anything, to be fair. And I think that comes from some of those inbuilt skills that we bring. One thing I do believe is we are really good balancers. We are very good at finding the grey space between black and white, and slipping in there without anybody realizing and adding value. And it's really interesting. So I think that what we should do is use our natural abilities, our inbuilt abilities, learn the things we need, but always be willing to step in and be in a space that perhaps others don't naturally fit into. And that's what I've seen. It's never an intentional drive to have more females in my team. It's never been by design, never been by target, but been by giving everybody an opportunity. And one thing I do believe, as a female, and as our audience grows over their careers and become leaders, we bear a big responsibility about creating opportunity for others, regardless of gender, culture, age, nationality, whatever. And then I think females naturally thrive. They grab opportunities more than others, and I think that's possibly why over time gender balance is sorting itself out. But I may also be just a little bit lucky, and that I have never felt held back. But then maybe some of that's psychological. Some of that is about being you, and someone else mentioned earlier, being confident in your ability and grabbing opportunities whenever you can. That would be my advice.
Amazing, thank you, Cheryl. So moving on to Jasmine, I'm currently in a position that you once held not so long ago. So I was wondering, since at the moment there's new apprentices coming in next year and they're currently doing their assessment days, and there's different types of interviews that Cisco and other corporate companies hold, what would be your interview tips and advice how to create a first impression, but most importantly, a lasting impression for when you do enter the company?
That's a great question. Thank you, Rhiannon. So I guess my answer to that, to give advice to anyone who's looking at joining the apprenticeship program, well, first of all, it's not just all technical roles. We take people in all roles. We do marketing, we do account management, we do product management, we do software development. So there are various roles, and to just wanted to put that out there, because I know that I've only spoken about my experience and because I've been in technical roles, but we do actually offer a range of other roles. Sorry, I lost my words. But as for advice, obviously other than the usual, be professional, and I'd say be you. Bring you to the workplace, and as long as you have passion for tech, I don't think you will have a problem with that, because we are trying to encourage people to stay authentic to themselves. Show your passion, show you are motivated, and through actually the whole program, when you join, show that you are willing to learn, and people will give you opportunities. It's about how much people will continue giving you things about how much you can take, how much you're going to learn, what are you going to do with that. And also, I think we've mentioned this before, we all try to be modest, but at the same time, talk about the things that you've done. Post them on LinkedIn, use your social media and all that, just to promote what you're doing and what the program is doing, and you will have a huge amount of support. Don't be scared. There is a whole mentoring system going on. So when you join, you get given an apprentice who's been in the year above you, who's gone through what you've been through, who will help you. And then as you go, you will find your own mentors and you will meet more people. But yeah, for the interviews, just be you. And it's about teamwork. As long as you are a team, you are good in working with teams, and you are good with voicing your opinions in a way that is by taking everyone else's opinions into consideration as well, and all that, you'll be fine.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hope, I'm going to move to you next. Being in a previous panel discussion with you, I noticed how much confidence you have and how a lot of people turn to you for these kinds of things. So getting the job a lot of the time is only half the battle for some people. The other half of the battle is having the confidence to then go and excel in your job and make yourself noticed. So what tips would you have for people to build their confidence when in the workplace and be noticed by other employees?
I think some tips from me. I've not always been confident, and I've got days in my role where I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. You know, and you feel really unconfident sometimes. But I think I've always heard of the phrase "fake it till you make it," and that's not a formal phrase by any means. But I think, you know, first of all is to remain humble, and you never know everything. So I think just be open about that and speak to people and understand their position, and you know, you gain confidence from other people sharing their knowledge. And then ultimately, you know, my job is about articulating messages back to the customer, but I have to rely on other people to do so. So I think I build my confidence through other people. I build my confidence through feedback as well. I always make sure that I have a really close relationship with my manager and peers, and I ask them for feedback as well. And, you know, most people will provide constructive criticism, but they're also really happy to tell you what you're good at. And that helps to build confidence in the job. So yeah, my main advice I would say is just ask for feedback and make sure that you connect with people, because that's going to help you thrive. And it's really difficult to do that in this world because it's all virtual. You know, I've not met my team, so I make sure I put my video on as much as I can so that you can really, really connect, because that's the best way to do it in this circumstance.
Amazing, that's really good advice. Thanks, Hope. Ashika, I'm going to move to you. What would you say to people who believe that they've only been given an opportunity as part of a diversity initiative rather than based on their own merits?
Well, the most critical, I think, the first thing I would say was don't believe it. The more you tell yourself that, the more you believe it. And if someone said that to you, or if you keep replaying something in your head, it becomes your truth. And that means that it might stop you from progressing. It might stop you from applying to other jobs. It might make you miss other opportunities because you've believed that in your head to say that I'm not good enough. I was just hired because of, to fill a spot or to do this. And that's sad. So just make sure you guys don't do that and build up the story in your head, even if somebody said that to you. I would say, see the positive in what you're bringing. If you are being seen as a diverse person, that means everybody else is the same. If it's the color of your skin, your gender, whatever the diversity aspect is, you're different. And if you're the different person, see that as a benefit to the people around you. They're going to benefit from it, and you're bringing that to the team. So don't let that dishearten you. Kind of see that as a positive and take that from it. And the last thing I would say is focus on your performance. If you're solid, people will be able to see that. If you can focus and invest on your career, on your networking, like everyone spoke on, everybody will be able to see that, and nobody will doubt that you were brought in just to fill a gap or to do any of that. Just be sure on yourself and work on yourself and your role, and you'll slowly stop believing that, and hopefully that doesn't become something that's in somebody's head.
Brilliant, thank you, Shika. I'm now going to pass back to Chandni, who's going to close off the session for today.
Thank you so much, Rhiannon, and thank you so much to every single one of our panelists today. I think I speak for us all and for all of our listeners today when I say we've learned so much in the past hour, and all of the teachings and experiences and tips have been so invaluable. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for sharing your experiences and advice with that. And with that, I will say goodbye to everyone listening. Take care, and best of luck with the hack announcements.
Thank you.
Cool.